Hello, Dale McDermott here with the CGLCC and welcome to the 2020 Digital LGBT Plus Global Business Summit. Before we get started on the session, CGLCC would like to recognise our presenting sponsor, TD Bank Group, along with all of our gold and silver sponsors and all of our sponsors for helping us to make this event happen. We would also like to recognise our translation partner, AI Media, for enabling us to deliver live caption translation in 3 languages, English, French and Spanish. And you can access those using the links below in the description box. I'd also like to draw your attention to the left-hand side of your screen to the networking and exhibit hall tab. Over the course of the next 5 days, you can connect with LGBT plus businesses, corporations, and each other to help drive that power of connection. And finally, if you do like the content we are producing, please feel free to make a financial contribution using the donate link in the description box below. Thank you, and enjoy your session.
Hi, welcome to this session. We're going to be talking about some of the ways that immersive technology is changing the training world. I'm Lee Brighton, and I'm very excited to be presenting with you today. So, Virtuo is our company, and we're a social-facing tech startup. We leverage emerging technology, virtual reality, augmented reality, AI technology to create a new paradigm for learning and development. Our mission is really all about accelerating learning. We deliver competency-based training simulations. We use AI characters, or virtual humans, as we call them, with conversational abilities. And I really think this is a game changer in the training space. We can do job interview simulations, and we've got newcomers actually practicing their job interview skills, ready to gain access to our workforce here in Canada. And we have language apps. Again, we're looking at how to enable that communication, that level of conversation to help people practice their speaking and listening skills. But what I wanted to do is, I guess, give you an opportunity today to learn a little bit more about us. We are a diverse and inclusive by design company. We're a team of 28 people, and we started with the notion that we needed to be diverse and inclusive from day one, which is unusual for a startup. So we have done everything possible to endeavour to keep 50% female techs and 50% of our males in admin and marketing roles. We did a survey for the TIA Awards, at which we were actually finalists back in January, and to our surprise, we had 14 of our team of 28 were actually newcomers, and we represented 12 different countries, and we had 14% LGBTQ+. So we're pretty proud of who we are. But let's get on to what we're here to talk about today, emerging technology. And I want to give you a little bit of an insight into what the different types of emerging technology are. It's important that when we're looking to how we can use these tools for business, that we understand so that we can have the language around the right tool. So I'm going to quickly run through these as a prelude to the rest of the conversation. So, emerging technology, the first one I'm going to focus on is 360 video, because it's often confused. 360 video is a video showing a scene in 360 degrees. The user can look around. However, typically the user can't interact. They can't use their hands. They can't move objects. It's a visual type of experience. This is often confused with the term virtual reality. So I raise it not to discount it. I mean, 360 is really good. For instance, if you're in the real estate, if you're in travel or your hotel, it's fantastic to be able to have someone come into that space and have a great look around them. And the cool thing is it can be viewed in virtual reality, but it also can be viewed on your phone. Facebook has a fantastic 360 tool inside of that. A lot of people use it to watch events or sporting. You can be located right at a goalpost and watching a whole game. It can be used for real location, and it's primarily used when no interaction is actually needed. The next one that I want to talk about is immersive experiences. Again, a little bit of a misused term, but immersive experiences are really starting to come into their own, an exciting role in the tech space. An immersive experience is where they're creating an illusionary environment. Some of the more recent ones that I've seen are completely surrounding you inside of that immersive experience. Here's a couple of photos of some of them that have actually been done. Now, the first one you can see, you actually walk around and you're part of everything that's happening around you. They're primarily used in the arts, but you certainly can, have walls where there's things that can interact as well. Digital twins. Digital twins is creating a replication of the living or non-living physical entity. Let me click over to actually talk about some of the best uses for this. So it can be used to test hypotheses. It can be used in pilot programs for data analysis or in VR training simulations. For instance, if you want to see the airflow of a new wing that you're creating for a plane, it's a great place to actually simulate it. Likewise, if you want to change the layout in your factory, also good. We did a lot of work in the health area where we actually replicated an esophagus for a haptronics device company that wanted to actually emulate what happens when a person is having an operation on their esophagus. So they created the haptronics tool. We created all the visual and made sure that we had the AI algorithms so that when you pushed on the side, it actually reacted like would happen if you had a real patient. Fantastic use of this technology. I want to jump over to augmented reality. Augmented reality overlays images or experiences on the real world. So I can still see the world around me. I'm overlaying some kind of image on that. And that can be done through either glasses or through your phone. And the most common one that most people jump back to was, well, the first one, I guess, was Pokemon Go. In 2016, we were down in LA when Pokemon Go was launched. And it was the first time in LA that I had seen so many people actually walking around the streets. And, phone up, they were chasing these little objects around. And you would see hundreds of people out every night. So its applications can be anything that engages people. More recently, some of you may have tried the Burger King where you could burn that ad experience. And again, these were novel, but they certainly gained a lot of hype in the media. Another application, IKEA is using it, for instance, for you to try out a lounge chair in your living room, see what the color looks like, see what the placement, see how big it's going to be in relation to your other furniture. Fantastic. Another application where I really see AR coming into its own is where we replace those horrible instructional manuals with something that goes on our screen and we can hold it up, see the image in the background, and it can give us the directions. Put this cord in that place. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me, that would be a great thing because I hate flicking through all the pages of a book. But on a more technical level, for industry and business, this is a great application where your service people can go out and they can have all of the manuals that they need simply in an iPad or an iPhone that they're carrying with them. So if they come across a model that they're not expecting, if they come across an issue they're not expecting, everything's there and it's a resource immediately available to them. Now, right now we're using phones and we're using iPads to do a lot of this. But the game changer will be when we start to get some of the AR glasses that really have the same functionality. One of the big game changers, I believe, will be when Apple Glasses brings out, they're slated to be called Apple Glasses. They're scheduled for release in late 2021, early 2022. So for those of you who are thinking about how AI might really change your business, don't ignore the fact that at that point, I mean, we're already starting to think about what applications we would make that would take advantage of that type of technology. Because when I can take it outside of being in a phone where I actively have to click on the icon and get the app going to make that happen, to something that I have on my head and can interact real time, I think the world's going to change. So be aware it's coming, and it's a huge opportunity if you have a product or an application. I know another way that it's being used, Facebook right now with Shopify is putting products, so I could go on there and I could try different lipstick colors or different clothing. Retail now, excellent opportunity in that space. Mixed reality is a bit of one that confuses a lot of people, and it's a little bit of a combination of what's happening in the augmented space and what's happening in the virtual space, because now we are actually putting on different goggles, and those different goggles are merging what we're seeing with the real world, with the ability to start interacting between them. The two main players in this space are Magic Leap and the Microsoft HoloLens. Now, you need to be aware of their market penetration before you go, wow, these are game changers. Because when I did this, when I first prepared this presentation, and granted it was a few months ago now, HoloLens had sold about 50,000. And because their price point is $4,000. So this isn't something that is available to everyone. Magic Leap, again, their price point's around 4,000 at tax and at, conversion depending on the dollar fluctuation. And they'd sold about 6,000. So given we're 5 months on, elevate those numbers. But they're really used in industry where you're designing or you're prototyping something. They can be great for training, but again, it's a limited time that you want to have something on your head like that. It's probably not all day. And medically, they're doing a lot of work. Philips is working with them on looking at how these could be used inside of surgery to actually overlay X-rays or other MRI information onto, so that you're overlaying something onto patients. Again, we're still early days in all of this technology. And I bring up again, I think the game changer is going to be when we have the Apple glasses, because they're going to read off the phone. So they're going to be much lighter weight in terms of the actual glass size, rather than something quite as bulky. But what I really want to focus on today is virtual reality. Virtual reality is taking you and immersing you in a 3D simulated world. So I can't, when I'm in VR, when I'm in augmented reality, I can see the outside world. It's still there. When I'm in virtual reality, I have whatever's in the created world, and that's what I see. And that's what I interact with. Virtual reality can be built so it is just visual, but also you can build objects in there. And those objects can have real physics. So if, for instance, I'm creating a training scenario in health, I can actually pick up things, instruments, surgical tools, medical, and interact with them. Whether I'm on an industrial site and I've got an image there of I think it's a gas plant, I can actually turn levers, I can rotate things with my hands, and it will feel the physics force feedback, and it will actually act how I'm interacting with that play. And this becomes really important in the training world. Now, COVID's disrupted everything, but COVID's also given us an opportunity to move more into this technology and look at how it can totally change the training world. Because where I might have been training now with an e-learning or in a classroom, and I'm looking at a 2D world, once I put these glasses on and I'm immersed in that world, there's no distractions, and it's been shown in research that you're learning through a different pathway. That pathway makes it very different. The other cool thing is it's totally scalable. We can do this at any location on demand. This is actually an Oculus Quest headset. That's all I need, and I can send that out to anyone in any location. It's a hard box, so I can post it, but I'm going to talk more about that in other slides, because this is the slide for the Oculus Quest. This retails at $540. So this is technology that's affordable today. It comes with the headset, pop it on my head, and the controllers. You can get the industrial, the commercial version, which is $1,000, which comes with all kinds of other interfaces and insurances. The other ones that I would recommend you look at if you're looking in this space, the Oculus Go is exceptionally good value, doesn't give you as much hand movement, but we use it a lot when we're doing language learning. for people to actually practice their conversations. And if you're wanting to use something that's actually connected to the computer, certainly it gives you much more rendering process. We use the Oculus Rift, but again, you need to have a $2,000 computer connected to these. So really with COVID, the best suggestion I would make would be to look at the Quest. Now, some people might say, well, what about Vive? You haven't mentioned HTC Vive. Yep, Vive is great and it's there, and we choose most of the time not to use it because we do a lot of work in the education space. And in education, budgets are always limited and people are always mindful of getting the best value for money. And in our opinion, the best value for money right now is the Quest in terms of the price point to what I actually get. I think it's a particularly good tool. Would I use the other the other headsets on the market? Yes, if there was a need. But right now, these are still my best choice as of this time. So let's change direction a little bit. That gave you an idea of different emerging technologies, but I'm going to zoom down a little bit because a lot of our work right now is in the virtual reality space. So I want to share with you some of the ways that companies are actually using this technology. In the past, in aviation, when we wanted to train people, we built out fancy rooms with screens and control panels and all that type of thing. I was talking to someone, the picture on the left shows a crane simulation. I was talking to someone who'd been at C-SPAN, and he said that the cost to set up those crane simulations, was $140,000 per installation. And obviously, there's a limited amount of people can go through that at any given point in time. With this type of technology, I can simulate a lot of that. I've got a cost here of $540 for the hardware, plus the software development and the use of it. It's really a game changer in terms of how we can train. I was talking to another company who were saying, who were explaining the cost of actually shutting down their assembly line to actually do this training. It's huge. We can now simulate a lot of these experiences in virtual reality. So if you're a company needing to train, whether it's for customer service in business or into industry, this is a great tool to be able to do that. So virtual reality simulations, in my opinion, are affordable, convenient. They're totally scalable. You build it once and it can be used globally. They can be at any location. I can do my training at home now and become competent in this. I do not need, using this technology here, I need a 6-foot space in my living room. I can map that out and I can actually undertake my training there. Readily available. It's distributed training, widely used, student-led. A lot of the training experiences we create are very much around the student leading those experiences. It increases engagement, and I can give you research papers that are showing you, and then test after test is showing that people are more engaged with this type of training because they're immersed and they're actually doing things rather than looking at the traditional e-learning flat screen. Not to say that it shouldn't be part of the program, but let's use the best tool for the best job. It's been reported to aid in staff retention, and simultaneous simulations mimic reality and role play. And that's some of the uses, whether it's in medical, whether it's airline emergency, whether it's training someone who's on an assembly line, or whether it's actually in pilot training. There's many, many uses for this. In surgical training, there was a study done. Immersive VR has been widely adopted in surgical training, where it's been shown to decrease injury and increase speed of operation and improve overall outcomes. It's now been absorbed into a large number of surgical programs with excellent results. And this is because we need to give people the opportunity to actually practice complex skills more. Virtual reality enables that to happen. Performance training, Johnson & Johnson Institute, they did a study with the Imperial College of London, and that study showed that 83% of surgeons who trained with VR could then go into a lab environment with minimal guidance. This is really important. 83% were trained in VR, could do that. The graph on the bottom was actually the lady from Johnson & Johnson when she presented the findings. On the grade section, none of the people who were trained through their normal training program felt competent to actually go and undertake the exercise without additional training. That's a game changer. Walmart uses it for customer experience. Walmart's been using this since 2018. They actually were the first large order of the Oculus Gos. They bought 17,000 for their first order. And what they did was use them to train their front of house or their customer service staff on looking at experiences and engaging with customers to improve that. Since then, in 2019, Walmart introduced it for psychometric evaluation of their middle managers to identify potential managers and to train in new store technology. 2020, and I don't know how that's working with COVID, but their aim was to train 1.4 million staff. And their aim right now, their training time was at 35 minutes. Their aim is to reduce that training time down to 5 to 7 minutes. That's a very big difference when you look at the high numbers of staff that they're looking to train. Verizon is using it in a very interesting way. Verizon's actually using the technology with their store associates, and they have 22,000 employees in 16,000 different retail stores, but they're using it for emergency simulations. They're training their staff on how to de-escalate high-risk moments. In other words, you've got someone with a gun walk in the store. How do you de-escalate that tense situation? What are the decisions you make under that intense pressure? 97% of trainees say they feel better prepared to deal with a possible robbery after doing the actual training. That's an amazing fact. I mean, it isn't something that most of us would immediately, certainly not in Canada, think is an application we need to look at. But looking further afield, there'll be some of us in business that are looking, okay, where are our high stress situations and how could we be using this technology to better enable our people to be prepared to deal with that stress and the pressure. Verizon are now using VR to train in electrical safety. Why? Because they can put the people in the simulations to actually undertake it, and they can create simulations where there are unexpected problems. And it's these unexpected problems that allow people to either demonstrate their competency in that or to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And that's where the real power of VR is that we can put people into a simulation and we can allow those mistakes that you can't allow on a real production line to happen. We can allow those. We can create fires in warehouses where you would never consider doing that in real life. And that emotional connection, that pressure that you feel inside that instant, that's real. Lowe's is using it for do-it-yourself training. This is a very clever idea. Lowe's simulations are designed to develop confidence in their buyers to undertake projects by showing them step to step how to actually do that to get success. So whether I'm looking to paint or tile or some skill that I don't typically have, to actually do that in the Lowe's store where I can go through all of the steps that would create the process of me being successful at getting those tiles on the floor or on the wall, I'm much more likely to engage in a do-it-yourself project with that confidence and that knowledge. It's a great strategy for increasing their buyers' confidence and obviously sales. They found that 36% had a better recall of how to complete the project when compared with people who watched a YouTube how-to video. It's a customer acquisition strategy and a sales strategy, and it's a very clever one. Worker safety. Ford simulate the manufacturing and production process and assembly line configurations in virtual reality. They identify dangerous situations and they immerse their employees in a future workstation, then capturing the employee's movement to evaluate task feasibility and proficiency. So if I'm trained in that space and it was totally simulating the world that I was in, there's every chance I can directly transfer that skill when needed. It's also good for complex task training. And as you can appreciate, in aerospace, whether it's Lockheed Martin or Boeing, they're looking at how to better train their people faster and more with a higher competency on the complex tasks that they actually need to do. And they found that, 30% faster with accuracy of 96% in that training. That makes a huge difference. Cost saving and increased retention. Yippee is using VR to train helicopter pilots for offshore landing rigs, saving $2 million in logistics cost, and employees retain 75% of the information. Farmers Insurance is using similar training for customer service and assessment of agents to practice difficult conversations with avatars. So, skills competency. Boeing is using it, and I mentioned them previously, for mechanics and to reduce the training time and reduce the length of the training programs. So they're continuing work in this space, especially in some of their aircrafts where they're looking at what are the future skills and how do we train ready for them to be competent. But one of the areas that I want to focus on, here's the work that we're doing, and that's with virtual humans. So virtual humans are in effect an avatar with AI capabilities, an AI character, if you like, or as we call them, virtual humans. Virtual humans that we're developing have speaking and listening skills. They're trained in conversation content, in non-linear conversation content or open dialogue. So if I train one up on genetics, I can ask it genetics questions and it will answer me in that topic. If I ask it an aerospace question or a astrophysics question, it's not going to know, much the same as I won't know unless I've been trained in it. But from using these virtual humans inside of virtual reality, we can now get the full metrics and analytics. We can get it for how you actually interact in the virtual reality, your actions, by what you do as you're doing things with your hands in there. And we also have this voice. And we can take full transcripts of the conversations and deliver that to your instructors for review, for mentoring, for guidance, for help, or you need to be retrained. And the results of the tasks simultaneously. What did you do with your hands? What did you do with your voice? I want to jump over and play you a quick video of how this is being used in healthcare.
I felt a bit short of breath.
Good morning, Mr. Bauer. How are you feeling today?
I had trouble sleeping yesterday. I felt a bit short of breath.
That must have been worrisome, Mr. Bauer. Were you able to breathe more easily sitting up?
Yeah, sitting up helped. I'm also out of breath when I walk to the bathroom.
Let me check your vital signs. Your pulse is a bit fast. Have you taken your heart medications this morning?
No, I should probably do that.
Yes, let me get those for you. I will let your nurse know that you are having some shortness of breath, and she will follow up with you.
So the blue hands you saw was the actual person undertaking the training, and that was an AI character. Now, if that simulation was done again and our healthcare worker asked a different set of questions, a different response would be had or we would hear a different response. So those characters now allow us, those artificial intelligence characters or virtual humans, allow us to look at different ways we can train to have that conversation in VR. And I hate to use the term again, but this is a game changer, because up until now, what we've done with virtual reality is we've put either video conversation where we've projected it at the user, or we've put text on the screen, or even worse, multiple choice questions. And that was the way we took feedback. But in our world, we're looking at, right, virtual reality, we're simulating you inside of that, and we're providing actors or virtual humans that are doing that interjection or that interaction with you, if you like, to have that conversation. They can deliver information to you, they can answer questions, they can provide instructions to you, or they could also, for instance, in a fire simulation, they could be the one that, is yelling out, help, help, and seeing what you do from that, and even making mistakes in that scenario so that your work becomes that much harder. But if we're looking to see how you react to challenging situations. So all of this points to the competency-based training that we're focused on. Competency-based training needs trainees to understand the actions and the communication. Now, one of the things that I want to point out, because I said at the start, I made a point of saying we were diverse and inclusive. One of the issues that we face in business and industry is that some of the people that we employ, English will not be their first language, and they may not be proficient speakers in English. So how do we ensure that this training is adequately helping them to gain the skills and the competency that they need? We've done a lot of work in English language learning. In fact, we've built a whole application to help people practice their speaking skills. And part of the reason for that is that we wanted to make sure that our AI characters really understood this level of communication and that we could break that down so that now our training, you can do the training as a proficient English speaker, or you can do it as an English language learner. And we'll let you choose. And you can choose to do it as an English language learner, and you'll get all of the key training skills that you need from that. And then you can choose to redo it as a proficient speaker. So you'll hear all of the conversations that are likely to be passed to you as part of your learning process. For instance, in a safety or an emergency situation, you need to understand the words that are going to be spoken to you. So while we want you competent and trained as an English language learner in the skills you need, we also want you to have that hearing for the communication and the language that you're likely to be spoken to inside of that actual experience. And virtual reality can deliver that. And it speaks to compliance. If you have an accident and you're requested to prove that your person was adequately and competently trained, you want to be able to point to experiences where you can demonstrate that we not only did we train them on the skills that they needed, we trained them at the language level that they need as well. So, competency-based training simulations. For us, it's about virtual reality. It's about creating that simulated 3D world. It's about creating the interaction where I'm using controllers, but I have real hands in there where I can do things. It's about that speaking and the listening. It's about me being able to communicate inside of that experience with virtual humans that can look like anything they need to. And it's about having that language that let's do it at a proficient level, or let's do it as an English language learner. And moving forward, we'll also do that for French, Spanish, and a number of other languages that we've already tested. So this all speaks to evidence-based evaluation. And we have a team that specifically works on that. Evidence-based evaluation is taking all of those metrics and comparing it to a proficient person undertaking those same roles. And that's also something that we can develop out to make sure that you have that full compliance. But it's also about providing training where you're engaging your learner and you're keeping them happy in what they're actually learning to become that life learner, so to speak. That's what we do. I really want to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share it with you. If you'd like to connect, I have my email there. You can also scan that when that's my LinkedIn code. And I see I've got a number of questions, so I'll try and jump across and talk to some of those. How can virtual reality and training be applied to help support businesses after the pandemic? So training your people. Training your people would be the number one thing. To have them competent in a skill, I showed you this. I mean, there's companies I know of that literally are packaging up their headsets and putting this in the post, and out it goes to their people. And that's going to be a norm. I know there's lots of Fortune 500 companies that are now looking. The simplicity of this, simply being able to package into such a small and safe thing. And, you know, someone said to me, oh, well, what happens if it gets stolen? And I said, it's $540. You know, you spend more than that on one plane flight to get someone across the other side of the country. And it's also kind of a nice thing to know that you can do something a little more green than put someone on a plane. How do you see big organizations such as banks and perhaps government agencies using these technologies to train their employees? Which businesses are using this kind of technology? Well, I showed you a whole lot that are already using it, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, I could talk for all day on this, but let's not. Governments and banks. Banks, it could be, again, like Verizon's using it in de-escalation, but I see a more useful term in terms of them actually practicing the processes and the customer service. How do you deal with someone who's a newcomer coming in to open the bank and English is not their first language and you're trying to walk them through this process where banking for them looked very different? It was on a cell phone and they've never actually interacted with a customer teller in a bank. What does that look like? Let's simulate it. We're already selling to government, and one of the applications, and I won't go into too much detail, is for them to practice their media skills. How do you actually train up someone to know this is a media release, you need to meet with this journalist, you need to have that conversation? Let's practice what that is going to look like. Let's improve those skills. As we all know, many people liken presenting to there's death and there's presenting. It's not everyone's cup of tea. So inside of that, this is an opportunity for you to actually practice some of those tough conversational skills and or processes. And other questions. I can see, I love seeing all the professional applications of VR and how it will disrupt training, but I am interested in how it will be applied in social settings. One of our traditional favorite aspects of a conference or summit like this includes the social aspect, the chance to encounter the friendly conversations and networking. When can we expect VR technologies or other technologies to enable this type of social interaction network? Well, it actually already is. I've been in conferences that have had 4,000 and 5,000 people in it already since the pandemic. We were in virtual rooms. The cool thing is that this technology is enabled for PC or it's enabled for virtual reality, where you can put on your headset and you can go in there, and it has that geolocation element. So as you walk up to someone, you can actually start to have that conversation with them. And likewise, as you move away, you no longer hear that conversation. All of these tools are already in existence and they're being used inside of virtual reality. There's a number of different tools that are using this type of thing. One thing that I could send you to, and it's a great initiative by Mozilla, they've created hubs. Hubs allows you to go into 3D worlds and have that type of interactive exchange inside of them. You can run, you can't quite run conferences in there yet. They have a limit of 24 participants, but for smaller scale training, that's not really our key focus in terms of training. We're looking at training more on the simulation and that voice interchange, where we can actually pick a specific skill as opposed to a conference where it is social and networking. I hope that answers your question.
Are there any other questions?
Is there any other questions or any other information I can help anyone with? Thank you for the questions. Very good questions, actually. Sorry?
Tell them about healthcare project or
So I've got a little bit of time, and my partner in crime, Jordan, just said, why don't you share a little bit about the healthcare project we're working on. One of the key issues, and you've all seen it on the media, is we have a chronic shortage of healthcare workers. We're really excited to be in this space, and you saw an early prototype of some of the work we're doing. I mean, right now, if I want to be registered in BC to be a healthcare worker, well, not right now, let's go back to January, I went to an assessment center. It cost me $800. I had to come here in person, even if I was located in Prince George. I had to do a 4-hour test. It had a person in there with me assessing and a person behind the screen. You know, we can't do that. The colleges can't teach their practicum studies, and I really would prefer people to have a chance to practice. So we're building out, we're using, this is a actual technology where we're building out applications, and people will be using Oculus Quest headsets to actually do some of their practicum training, whether that's actually talking in a home to a patient like you saw on the video, or whether that's actually doing some kind of triage or some kind of other, you know, I'm not from a healthcare space, I'm good in tech, some kind of activity to help or assist that person. We'll be training them inside of this. We'll be creating multiple different simulations, and inside those simulations, we'll have different things occur. The VR characters will have different types of issues, the AI characters, the virtual humans will have different types of issues that they present for the person to solve or undertake. But this is really exciting when you think about the fact that now anyone in Canada will be able to access this kind of training and be able to be assessed wherever they are. This is a way that we can enable, because we have a lot of talented people that had, you know, many years of experience in healthcare. But when you think about the fact that, you know, they had to invest $800, they had to travel to Vancouver, accommodation, airfares, yada, 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 to actually get registered, you know, some of them have picked other careers to go into. We need them in the healthcare. We need more of these healthcare or personal support workers, as I think they're called in Ontario. We need more people that can feel comfortable in actually going, doing the training and the assessment at their home or wherever they're located, and actually registering and joining in this workforce. And it's going to be a big project. It'll take us over a year to construct the 20 different simulations that we're hoping to do, but we have some fantastic partners on board, and we're really looking forward to starting that work. But yeah, if you have an interest in that, please speak to us. We're also doing some work in education, and we're doing some work. So our competency is in the technology. We've built a fairly robust, a large, robust platform that enables the VR and enables the AI characters. What we then do is speak and work with content specialists. So you might be a specialist in the area that you work in. We're not looking to be specialists in that. We're looking to partner with you and create the types of environments using our technical expertise. And again, that's not to rule out the other types of learning. We want to be part of a blended solution where, yes, there's e-learning and there's books and there's videos and there's all the other types of, you know, constructs that go around making a good learning experience. It's just virtual reality can be dropped in as one. Thank you very much. I think I'm finished.